And for another edition of Armchair Quarterback, I'm David Allen, joined as always by Coach Guy Suttle, and sitting in with us this week for the injured Rob Roop. He's on the IR for us. We got Paul Foster back with us. Paul, glad to have you back, and another big week of Cleveland County football on Friday night. And let's start with the Burns Bulldogs, as we always go in alphabetical order, but this one, Coach, would have been the Max Davis show.
Without a doubt. I mean, it was amazing. 5 touchdowns, well over 225 yards rushing. He put on a show. And they were 75 yards, they were 40 yards, they were 1 yard. I mean, everything in between. Yeah, kudos to Max Davis.
Yeah, I actually think it was 285 yards rushing.
Yeah.
And he had a 75-yarder called back, Paul. That's a night right there, buddy.
What a night for that young man. That's all we've been hearing about since that Burns game. And I'm sure some other Burns players played well also, but a big win for Burns. Max had a shining night, and I believe now he has got, over 900 yards on the season.
Wow.
Yeah, and had a third of that on Friday night. So, well, here's the thing, though. Stuart Kramer, not a bad game against Shelby. I mean, it was a 20-point loss, a 2-touchdown loss to Burns. So I don't know, can they be considered a, formidable opponent going forward in this conference for Shelby and Burns? But, I mean, considering what we've been dealing with in this conference forever, we need some teams that can actually give us some competition. 35-21 is not your 75-0 ball game.
No. And I think there's still some key matchups out there that we'll talk about a little later in the show. But I think Stuart Kramer, being in the Big South and coming down a classification into the Shelby, Burns, Lincoln realm has been advantageous for them. But now they have to see what it's like to play traditional powers. I mean, let's go ahead and throw that in the mix. Yeah, you step down from the Big South, or you drop classification, not step down, but you drop classification from the Big South, and you're used to playing these tough teams every Friday night. Now you've run into a couple of perennial powers, though. At least you know where you stack up. Like right now, they're stacking up as a good ball game. Will they progress over the next couple of years? It's hard to say, but right now they are competitive in this league, and they're giving the perennial powers of this league a tough game.
That's exactly right. There's your final. 35-21, Burns improves to now 4-1 in the conference. So remember that loss to Lincoln, and 4-3 overall now for the Bulldogs. Moving on to the Crest Chargers, and wow, I'm going to tell you what, this is a final score that when I was looking on Friday night, because I didn't go to the game Friday night, when I saw this final score, I was like, man, 42-7, Paul, the Chargers maybe playing one of their better games in a long, long time.
They really did, David. I thought the whole team really orchestrated a great job. Greg Lloyd and his coaching staff just really came out there, and his players were ready to go from the get-go. There's an example right there of just one of the shorter pass plays by Crest, but there was not many times that South Point stopped them for short runs. Usually there were considerable gains, and that's one of the few times that Blee, the South Point quarterback, was able to make something happen. One of the things that stood out for me defensively for Crest was the fact that if South Point couldn't get it done in their option, either a quarterback run or their big fullback, and that's either Blee or Bless, they didn't get it done. They could not run to the corners. They could not run to the outside against the Crest defense.
Well, and Coach, I mean, obviously in the triple option, you would love that fullback to make a living for you in there. But it's also nice to get your halfbacks going. And if they couldn't get outside and press Crest on the edges, that makes for a long, long night. Because then you can just mash that fullback every time, whether he's got the ball or not.
Absolutely. And, I think Crest knew going into this game, you wanted the ball out of the fullback and you wanted it out of the quarterback's hand. You wanted to take away the fullback and you wanted to take away the quarterback. That was easy. And when they did, they had some turnovers there. The other thing, though, the group, and I agree with Paul, the entire team played outstanding football the entire game, and Coach Lloyd had them ready to play. But one group that I want to talk about, and I know I say this a lot, the offensive line. The offensive line for Crest dominated up front against the Red Raiders, and to me, that's just huge, huge. I mean, on these on the screen passes, things of that nature, they had linemen downfield making their blocks and staying engaged.
Well, and Paul, not only did they do well on the offensive line, but the defensive line won that battle of the trenches on the other side of the football as well.
David, they most certainly did. They were just in attack mode as well. As we said, just not much luck in that option for the quarterback or the fullback on that night. And when they did try to go to the air, which of course is very seldom, they were usually smaller completions if they made those. It was nothing like what they did when South Point came back in the fourth quarter in Belmont last year to beat Crest.
All right, so there's your final, 42-7. I'm telling you, you don't see South Point get thumped like that very often. So this was a big-time effort for the Chargers on Friday night as they absolutely manhandled, humbled, whatever word you want to use it. But that's, I mean, 42-7 over South Point, that's pretty good stuff. I mean, I remember going to, this is a long time ago, I remember going to South Point in like 1977. That's telling you how long, and that tells you how old I am too.
Yeah.
But,
You were just a kid.
and yeah, well, I was just a kid, and Shelby with Alan Burris and Anthony Weber was up 35-0 at halftime on South Point. And
Scott Bankhead.
It's Scott Bankhead, that's exactly right. You don't see that kind of score, so kudos to the Chargers. That's a big-time win for them.
And Paul can correct me on this. I think the last time that they were manhandled like this was Crest in 2014. The first game, Crest opened up with South Point. The first game of the season, 2014, beat them very close to the same score, and then had to turn right around and play them in the fourth round of the playoffs to see who goes to the state championship, and it was a 10-point game. So never count the Red Raiders
well,
out.
you can't count them out, that's for sure. Final game of the week, though, Kings Mountain and North Gaston. We said last week, oh my goodness. And Paul, this was an oh my goodness kind of game. Kings Mountain all over the Wildcats on Friday night.
Yeah, it's what we really expected to happen. It's been a few seasons now since North Gaston had gotten a better team, and they were in some games that were closer and had a decent record for a while, but that's all going back to the old ways of North Gaston football. Of course, you know, we talk about Tex Vaughn so often, the tremendous wide receiver. We know that Jarlin Dry, the running back, now is averaging over 100 yards a game. And those are just two of the key players, but so many people had significant moments in another big win for Kings Mountain over North Gaston.
Well, and this is a Kings Mountain team that very much like Crest, they've got a loss outside the conference in their game against Charlotte Catholic. Now they're kind of, the last couple of weeks, Coach, they've been in these kind of warm-up games, you would say. But the last 4 games on the schedule for Kings Mountain, it's the Murderers Row, the Big South. They got South Point, Ashbrook, Crest, and Hunter Huss is the 4th one. And Huss maybe not, but 3 out of 4 of those are going to be big-time competition for Kings Mountain.
Yeah, and we don't want to jump to our second segment right now, but yeah, they've got one of those tests coming up Friday night. But any time that you can run the ball and throw the ball the way Kings Mountain was able to Friday night is a confidence builder. And they're going to need some of that confidence, and we'll talk about that in the second segment.
Well, plenty of confidence on Friday night for the Mountaineers. 65-0 over North Gaston. I mean, it's like every other week we're seeing these scores. If it's not Shelby Highland Tech, it's Kings Mountain, North Gaston, or Crest and Forest View, Burns, and I mean, it's like, oh my goodness. So, hey, when we come back, we'll talk about what's coming up for our Cleveland County teams this coming Friday night. We'll look at college, and we'll talk about, hey, those Carolina Panthers with a big win yesterday. We'll do that when we come back. You're watching Armchair Quarterback. Welcome back to this episode of Armchair Quarterback. I'm David Allen along with Coach Guy Suttle and Paul Foster sitting in with us this week. Each week we talk about our Cleveland County football teams and what they've got coming up. And as we said in the first segment, we go in alphabetical order. Burns is on a bye this week, so they'll take the week off before they get back in it. But let's talk about these Crest Chargers at Hunter Huss. You look at that record now, guys. 5-1 Crest against 5-2 Hunter Huss. Doesn't look like a blowout on that screen right there, Paul, but this one probably, if Crest doesn't have a letdown after the big win over South Point, this one will probably be a little one-sided.
Yeah, the thing that throws people off a little bit about this is some of the Crest fans may be remembering, hey, last season we went to Huss, but the way this whole thing worked out, it's 2 seasons in a row that you're going on the road to Hunter Huss. And I just feel like if Crest, does half the things that they did against South Point, they'll be able to get a victory on Friday night.
Coach, Hunter Huss is a team that always has athletes, no question about it. They're in a place there in Gastonia where they're going to get a lot of athletes, but they are as roller coaster as any other team in that conference. When we talk about every year, and you say it every year, there's the 3 power guys of Kings Mountain Crest and South Point, and then somebody else. And Huss might be one of those teams, but not this year.
Yeah, the thing and I'm agreeing with Paul here, this can be a trap game a little bit for you also. Crest played at home. It was a huge home crowd, a lot of pregame festivities with Coach Lloyd getting and the 2 players from Crest being recognized for the Shrine Bowl. And South Point always travels well. And now you're going to go to Hunter Huss, and it's going to be deathly quiet till 7:20, maybe. You could hear the crickets while you're warming up. That's how bad it is. And that can be a trap game. You're going from a big victory, a dominant victory against a team that you have to beat, and now you're going to go to Hunter Huss, and it's just deathly quiet. And we hope the fans show up. You say it every week. But it can be a tough game for Crest emotionally.
All right, no cricket's going to be involved in this next one, though, because Kings Mountain has to go to Ashbrook, and we've been talking about who's the other team. It is definitely Ashbrook at this point, 6-0. They've got a win over South Point earlier in the season under their belt. They've got Crest and Kings Mountain both in the last 4 weeks. But this is a big test for Kings Mountain, Paul, on Friday night as they go to Ashbrook.
Yeah, we've got a lot to look forward to in these final weeks to see who's going to be standing at the top of the Big South Conference, what the records are going to be. And it starts with Kings Mountain going into to take on an unbeaten team in Ashbrook. Just how good are they? Well, we'll find out more as they take on Kings Mountain. If Ashbrook comes out of this thing, well, that puts even more pressure on the rest of the way, as we talked about Kings Mountain and Crest still to play, and of course, Crest has got to take on Ashbrook as well.
Paul talked about it in the previous segment where we were doing the highlights of the North Gaston game. Kings Mountain is balanced on offense, and that seems to be working really well for the Mountaineers right now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an extremely physical game. We know Ashbrook in the past has been physical. At 6-0, their defense has always been good. Their offense evidently is clicking. And we're going to pit that against the best part of Kings Mountain's entire team when you talk about Kings Mountain's defense. And with Kings Mountain's offense hanging 65, it's hard to hang 65 on air, much less against some, actual breathing human beings on the other side. This is going to be a really good ball game. Will it be 45-36 or something like that? I'm not sure. But I think it's going to be a close, hard-fought, very physical football game. And who comes out of this one is going to make a statement, whether it's Kings Mountain or Ashbrook.
All right, so Kings Mountain going to Ashbrook. We'll know a lot more about how the conference is going to shake out after that ball game and see who's actually in the driver's seat, because I would say the winner of that game is in the driver's seat going into the last 3 weeks of the regular season. It's hard to believe it. We're talking about going into the last 4 weeks And then after this Friday, going in the last 3 weeks of the regular season, it just cannot. We just started, and it's already almost over. I can't believe it. Final game of the week, though. I tried to make this the final game of the week last week, and it's the final game of the week this week. Shelby at Lincoln. We know Lincoln is one of those teams in this conference that is, along with Shelby and Burns. I mean, they've already beaten Burns, so we know that Lincoln's going to be one of those teams to deal with, Paul. And I mean, here you got Shelby on the road at Lincoln, and that's an old timer kind of ball game there from going way back.
Yeah, that's old school, and one that, man, everybody seems to be talking about. I'm looking forward to seeing how this and hearing about how this game goes. When I was looking at the stats, and you guys probably already knew this, I mean, you're talking about two tremendous passing attacks. Shelby, led by quarterback Farmer, over 1,400 yards on the season. Lincoln's got over 1,500 passing yards, except the one thing that they do is that their quarterback loves to rush the ball a lot more. He's got high, bigger numbers, but, Farmer doesn't need to do that when he's got people like, of course, Tate and others to go to, but man, that's a lot of offense. Who's going to bring the defense, I'd say, on Friday night?
Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
it might
go
be
ahead.
4.5 hours long. It might, not counting the TV timeouts. When you're putting the ball in the air that much, I think, and I know it's an old, like you said, it's an old school type of game. Again, we know Shelby has been in these types of games every year, periodically. So, I mean, it's every year in the playoffs, whether it's deep runs in the playoffs, state championships. They've been in big ball games every year. Every one of these kids has played in a big ball game. Lincoln, on the other hand, I know that they made the playoffs last year, but it was almost a backdoor effort. This year, it's straight up, you got to beat that team in front of you. Which one is really wearing the real black and gold? And I call Lincoln black and yellow, so we'll know who the black and gold is. But I think Shelby has that mystique over these opposing teams, even though they're going into Lincoln. Lincoln's going to be the underdog.
Well, it'll be interesting to see because obviously Shelby has had some really quality defensive efforts, even going back to the two non-conference games, which are the toughest games so far that Shelby's played against Crest and Kings Mountain. Defense played well enough to win, honestly, in both of those football games. So if the defense continues to play well, I think Shelby will have the advantage on Friday night. Here we are for Week 8. Burns on the bye, Crest at Huss, Kings Mountain at Ashbrook, and Shelby at Lincoln. And both those last two, Kings Mountain and Ashbrook and Shelby and Lincoln, big-time indicators as what's going to end up being the case in those conference races. And as I say every week, go buy your ticket, go sit in the seat, go cheer on your fans, go yell at the referees, whatever you want to do, but go spend the money and go to the ball game and support your team on Friday night. Hey, and if you're a Burns fan that's off this week, go to one of the other three and go out and support the athletic programs of the other three teams or other three schools in Cleveland County. Let's switch gears and go to college football. We've been kind of handling college football and pro football a little bit with our winners and losers. Coach, I'll start with you. Who's your winner of the week this week in college football?
I'm going to say the Miami Hurricanes. That was a huge win over an in-state rival that, preseason top 10, top 5, and they just dominated Florida State. I'm going to say Miami Hurricanes.
Big win for Miami, no question about it. They're, I think, up to third in the poll. Great kind of throwback type season for Miami going way back in the day, and we'll see if they can continue that stuff. I mean, they went out and spent the money, got the Georgia quarterback, and things seem to be going well so far for them. Paul, who's your winner for this week?
You know what? I'm going to give it to another school in the state of Florida because they've taken so much criticism and they had a big win. I want to go to the Florida Gators.
Absolutely. Florida Gators. There you go. Okay. All right. Yeah. Florida with a big win over Texas.
More you can give us on that?
No, we'll say over Texas. And what you got to think about Texas at this point? I mean, kind of in the same boat as Clemson.
Yeah.
Thought to be one of the powerhouses with a great quarterback, and Arch Manning just has not delivered.
But here's my question, and maybe I'm way off track on this. It won't be the first time. Wonder if Arch Manning is average. Wonder if he's just an average quarterback that a lot of people have built up because of his uncles, and I mean, let's just say that he is. Let's say that, hey, we kind of missed the mark, or not we, but somebody missed the mark on Arch, and he's an average quarterback. Has he been set too high up on that pedestal to really perform where he needs to? I mean, his quarterback rating cannot be very well.
Well,
what if he's average?
And here's the thing: if it were 5 years ago in NCAA football, they would just bench him and put another five-star in at quarterback. But Paul, this kid's making $7-8 million. I mean, if you're making $7-8 million in the NIL world that we're living in right now, you can't really. I mean, Steve I can't say his name. Coach Sarkisian, he can't do anything about it.
Yeah, sometimes the whole thing about where we are with college football and basketball, as a fan, it's rough sometimes to know the money that's being spent, and is it going to add up? Is it going to work out to get where you want to be? And that's an example of one that's not working out, and we could even start naming head coaches, but we won't get into that at the moment.
No question about it.
The only person that was making more NIL money than Arch Manning was Cooper Flagg. I mean, and so... I mean, now we know how that turned out.
I saw Cooper Flagg saying they were showing him old basketball cards, and he was having to go through and say whether he knew guys, and he didn't know who Rashad McCants was. And I said, no, I thought that was funny because Rashad McCants is he's kind of pulled away from the Carolina family, so it was okay that he didn't know who that was. I thought it was funny. All right, let's. My winner, I'm going to go with Duke. Listen. I'm staying with listen, go ahead. And Rob's not here this week for me to give him the props, but Paul's a Duke fan too. But here's the thing. I turned it off when California scored to go up 21-7, and I thought, well, poor old Duke, what happened to them? They went out west and just got thumped. And then I saw the next morning, 45-21, they scored 38 unanswered. Yeah. So big winner for the week, the Duke Blue Devils. I'll go ahead and throw my loser out there because Coach and I have already talked about it. Carolina, oh my goodness, 38-10. Honestly, is lucky to be that close. It was 28-3 at the end of the first quarter. Clemson must have called the dogs off on that one. But anyway, it's just not working out right now in Chapel Hill for Coach Belichick. Who's your loser this week, Coach?
I got to go back with Texas. I mean, I think they are, and that's one reason I asked that question about Arch Manning being average. That's got to be a terrible feeling in Texas right now at Texas University. This is not what they expected. No. Even when we're going to bring him along slowly, not throw him to the wolves, all these kinds of things, and Arch is just not performing.
Well, they brought him along slowly. He sat behind Quinn Ewers for 2 years, and he's still not any good. Paul, who's your loser this week?
I'm going to have to go with Penn State. James Franklin has been talked about a lot, and I remember a couple of weekends ago, College Game Day was there, and they talked about his strategy, his lifestyle, everything, and then they go out there and they have, and I can't even remember the opponent, but they lost that game, which was a big one, and then they go out and lose again. So what's it been, 2 weeks in a row, and I think all the thoughts of Penn State fighting for a national championship, maybe being in the playoffs at all, looks very doubtful now.
Well, they're one of, we've already mentioned Clemson, we've already mentioned Texas, and now we're mentioning Penn State. I think you can still throw Alabama in there, even though they upset Georgia, because they've got 2 losses. There's a lot of 2-loss teams that everybody thought were going to be way up high, and they may not make it at all, but we'll see. Rick Neuheisel's kid got the job 2 days before after the coaching staff got fired, and he put 42 up on the D coordinator for Penn State, who's making $3 million a year, so I thought that was funny. I think he was just calling Madden plays, honestly, but it worked.
It did.
So UCLA 0-4, now 1-4 after the big win over Penn State. All right, switching gears now. Oh, let's not switch gears just yet. Gardner-Webb with another big win, this one over Charleston Southern. They've got Eastern Illinois coming up. We have been neglecting the Gardner-Webb Bulldogs, and they're having a good season, Coach.
They are, and they're impressive in that it seems like even in some losses, and I'm talking about schools their size, that they've been close. I mean, they're playing really good defense. They're not turning the ball over, and starting to get some things put together.
Absolutely. And then also, this note Western Carolina's quarterback, Teron Dickens, started the game 46 out of 46. 46 passes attempted, 46 passes complete. He finished, which is an NCAA record. He finished the game 53 of 56, which is crazy. They were throwing it on every play, but 46 out of 46, that's pretty good stuff. So congratulations to him. Western won that game over Wofford, so big win for the Catamounts. And I know, Coach Suttle, you love that. So
That's right.
There you go. Now let's switch to the Panthers. Panthers, 17-0. They turned the ball over the first 2 times they had it. It looked like, oh my goodness, here we go again. And then all of a sudden, the team that beat the Falcons 30-0 showed up, and it was a good ball game. They came back and won.
I mean, and you're talking about those first few moments of the game. I mean, Bryce Young is running around. He's fumbling the ball. That just everything looks bad. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, you want to play? This is not practice. Let's go ahead and play. And they just start. They look like a totally different team. He looks like a totally different quarterback moving the team up and down the field.
Paul, the Dolphins were without Tyreek Hill, and they've been kind of a train wreck this year anyway. But they were up 17-0, and usually in the NFL, when you get up 17-0, you're all right.
You know what you talked about with the going to bed at halftime, figuring Duke was beaten by California. I quit watching the Panthers. It was late in the first half, and I said I just can't stomach another one, especially coming off of that recent win of Atlanta, and then going on the road and losing. You're coming back home, and this is what you're giving me. But when you can run the football too, Bryce started playing better. Defense contributed in the second half, and here comes a guy by the name of Rico Dowdle, who I remember his name from Reynolds High School, Asheville product, South Carolina Gamecock, and man, he comes alive. And we didn't have was it Chuba? In the game, Chuba. So, trying to remember all that. But, Rico Dowdle, how about that?
Yeah, Rico Dowdle, instead of Blount Memorial at B of A, he thought he was at Blount Memorial Stadium because he had about 200 yards rushing that night against Shelby when he came down there. Tremendous game for Rico Dowdle. Feel good for him, and congratulations to him.
So the Panthers are 2-0 at home and 0-3 on the road. So.
Yep.
That ends up being 8-8, and in years past, that gets you in the playoffs from the South.
Well, and the Saints are terrible, although they won their first game yesterday. So, and the Panthers have a head-to-head against the Falcons already. So,
who do the Panthers play this week?
They got my Cowboys coming in, by the way, and I'm going to tell you what, the Cowboys actually looked decent yesterday against the Jets, and that's not saying much because the Jets are not very good. But 37-22, Cowboys defense actually played a couple of series, and Dak Prescott's playing extremely well. I will say, going back to the Panthers, that loss last week to the New England Patriots, Paul, didn't look such a bad deal. The Patriots' big win last night on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Patriots. I want to give them credit because since Bill Belichick went through those rough seasons after Tom Brady was gone, and then, of course, he wraps up his career, and we see a new coach come in, they just couldn't get anything going. They've got that former Tar Heel quarterback, new coaching in place, a former Patriot, and I think they've got a bright future.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how they do the rest of the year. Ravens took a beating yesterday, so watch out for Baltimore. Hey, watch out, we're out of time. That's all we got for this week. Stay with us and join us next week right here on Armchair Quarterback.